prevent as an alternative to prevent? And I know you're heavily critical of prevent, right?
Well, I don't even like to use the term alternative to prevent because it suggests that prevent is solving something at all. Mm-hmm. And my point on this is that, the whole discussion on prevent is, it's a big discussion, right? Mm-hmm. I have one simple question on prevent, only one question. How many British lives has prevent, based on evidence, recorded evidence, actually saved? And nobody can answer this question. Because the truth is, nobody knows. If we just take one example, the brother of Khurram Butt, who is one of the attackers of the London Bridge attackers. Yeah. Right? He ran around with a knife trying to kill people. His brother was in receipt of prevent money to the colour of £10,000 given to him directly by the police and the prevent services. He couldn't de-radicalise his own brother. So he has to beg this question, right? They do say we've stopped the X amount of people going to Syria, we've done this, which is all fine and good, but it doesn't answer the question of how many lives has it saved over here. So I think what they've used now is a sledgehammer to crack a nut. There are problems that exist. We need to tackle some of those problems, but they're through education. And that education can't be imposed by a governmental statutory duty forcing you as a teacher or as a doctor or as a nurse to spy on your clients or your patients.
This whole kind of Orwellian nightmare, 1984, Big Brother state. We've been hearing a lot of that, especially the term draconian, the draconian laws and draconian measures. Do you think that's a bit far-fetched? Is there a lot of truth to that credence?
Recently, Cage, my organisation, did a report, which is, I find it shocking. I still am really shocked. A few years ago, my colleague, Asim Qureshi, he said that the prevent duty now, there's a loophole in it, which essentially says, will allow the state to be able to seize people's children through the introduction of prevent. At the time, he was lambasted in the media saying he's a scaremonger. The Cage is responding to prevent as scaremongers. Now what we've just come across is multiple cases, shocking cases of women who the prevent services have approached and attempted to and have physically taken their children because of a notion of radicalization. In one case, we dealt with a sister who they entered her birthing suite. While she's just given birth, the police entered her birthing suite and tried to search her and then tried a program over 3 years to seize her children because they said her husband or whatever was connected to a radical group. Whatever the charge or the allegation may be, I don't understand this concept of separating the children based upon this flawed strategy.
She was giving birth.
Shortly afterwards.
Shortly afterwards?
Literally within an hour, or within. She says that she still had blood on her legs. That's how she describes it.
Yes, that article's on the website.
Yeah,
right?
it is. Yes. So what's happened now is that using the prevent guidelines, or they're not even guidelines, prevent legislation. Mark Rowley, who's like the former head of counterterrorism, says, and I quote him, that the courts have seized over 100 children and made them wards of court and separated from their parents since the introduction of prevent.
Right.
So before in the past, so to get it clear, seizing children from parents happens and can happen and maybe in some cases should happen if the child's at risk.
Of course.
If the child is at risk.
It's the well-being of the child, right?
Exactly. In these cases, because prevents guidelines or strategy is so unscientific and so unproven in that what is it? How do you define radicalization? A young girl's confused about identity. Somebody starts to wear hijab, somebody starts to look online about what's happening in Iraq or Syria or Palestine. These are all regarded as indicators, markers of somebody becoming radical and referred to prevent. Now, how do you do that? We've just been having a really deep conversation about some aspects of language. Will a teacher even have an idea of the beliefs of Islam, the wide-ranging fatwa and fiqh issues and so forth, where a person may want to probe about one aspect or another, but it doesn't mean they're going to run out next day and blow up people.
No, of course, yeah. I mean, this is the problem when they say, as an indication, doing your 5-time prayers. He wasn't practicing, she wasn't practicing. A week later, they were all of a sudden praying 5 times a day and stuff. But I think a lot of it is being religious in the 21st century in the West. It's shocking for many, I think, because you're living in a very atheist society, right? It's
a secularized society,
secularized,
which is we have. It's really because I remember going to school in the 70s and the 80s, mostly school here. Every day we had hymns.
Yes.
We'd read from our Gideon Bible
Yes.
and have assemblies, religiously based Christian religion.
Yes.
So that's in living memory.
Yes.
We have a society that most of its laws are built upon originally religious laws.
Yeah, of course.
That's where they come from, right? So this now that we've separated church and state, we expect every people's, in every world, in every place, at every time, if we don't follow suit, if you don't completely toe the line and do as we wish, now, as we say now. Yesterday, for example, homosexuality was illegal, it was a crime. Today, it is a crime to speak against homosexuals.
Right, yes.
So if you don't change with us, when we change, how we change, then you're backwards. I read this was another absolutely, you can't believe this is happening. So we were talking about draconian. On the face of it, we walk on the streets and everything's fine.
Yeah.
Britain's still a great country, alhamdulillah.
Yes.
But it's this slow erosion. You know, why has the far right rising so much now? What is the key thing they all say? Everybody's fine, we've just got a problem with the Muslims, right?
Yeah, of course.
So there was this guidance offered by a few years ago, 3-4 years ago, presented by Tower Hamlets Council to its teachers, to the teachers in the local authority schools. And they said, I quote, if you see a child in your care, in your becoming more serious about their study, abandoning bad friends, being more religious, and doing better in terms of their grades, be worried and look for signs of radicalization. And it became a joke amongst some people, and I think since that time they might have reviewed what they sent round.
Right.
But the idea that your child is improving and doing better because it's collected to religiosity,
of course, yes,
is a marker
that they're going to be radicalized.
That they're going to be radicalized at some point. Right.
Okay.
So this pre-crime, this Minority Report trying to predict from, there are children cases, prevent cases that have been referred from the age of 3 years old. The famous cucumber case, right? The kid couldn't pronounce cucumber properly. The teacher didn't heard cucumber, she heard cooker bomb.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's the famous, he couldn't, imagine, I know a 3-year-old child, cucumber,
okay,
cooker bomb.
And the teacher reported.
The parents had to go, they had to be spoken to.
Yeah.
What are you talking to them about? Cooker bombs, your child. So this is how...
I know about the case, for example, the teacher about the toy guns and the 2 Muslim kids in, I believe, in Luton School, primary school. They're speaking about we have toy guns that we play with at home, and then the teacher reported it to the police and to the authorities. And at the end, the mother actually fought the case, I believe, and she won the case.
Yeah, so
discrimination, because if it was a white Caucasian child speaking about playing with toy guns at home, it would be an issue, right?
So religiosity is seen as a problem. So another example that I've come across.
So if religiosity is seen as a problem, it's not so much to do with the religion of Islam then, is it just with how we perceive faith today anyway?
Well, it follows that Muslims are more religious, therefore they are more susceptible to terrorism.
And it links to that point of prevent.
There are religious Christians.
Is it targeting Muslims more or not? Because, a few years ago you could say so. Now, about 40 to 50% of the referrals are far right.
That's only happened in recent times, and I think the problem with this, our position has always been, hold on, if it's bad for us, it's bad for them. Even for those scumbags, some of those people who don't like us, if it's bad for us, it's bad for them. You can't make something good by applying it across, like it's a father saying, to about his children, you are a favoritist towards one child, and he responds by saying, no, I'm not. I treat all of them as just as bad. That cannot be the answer to how to communicate with the ordinary people. So I think,
egalitarian, eh?
yeah, egalitarian in all your evil. So yeah, there have been cases of far right being targeted by Prevent, but still it's disproportionate.
Because the response of Prevent and those that are practitioners and believers in Prevent now is that, well, look, we're going after the far right.
Bear this in mind though.
White supremacist ideology now.
Until you look at the statistics and analyze them properly, right? You look at how we constitute about 4 million out of a population about 65 or 66 million, for maybe pushing it 4 million, right? So that's, I don't know what, 3-4%, 5%, and 75% of the referrals are Muslims.
Right.
But we're 5% of the population.
Yes.
Right? The population, the white population is about, as I said, 60 odd million, let's say. And the referrals is 25%. So what are we talking about there?
Yeah,
right? You know?
Comparison numbers,
comparatively
of course.
speaking.
Yeah, of course. It does make you think, because, you know, prison population again, another one, anything between 15 to 18% are Muslim. And very disproportionate.
Yeah. So the prison population of this country is about 86,000. Muslim prison population is shocking in that relation. It's 12,000. Considering we're 5% of the population,
Precisely.
That's huge. Now, in that mix, are people are converted to Islam, and for whatever reason, you know, there are all those statistics.
Yes.
But even to add that, number of Muslims in prison is shocking. And I think, you know, in that regard, there is discrimination. There's no doubt, but Muslims also are involved in a lot of criminality, from, you know, every type of petty crime you can think of to major drug dealing. And I say this as somebody who's been in prison in the UK here. I was on remand in 2014 for sending a generator to Syria. Alhamdulillah, the case got dropped.
Okay.
And I was, but the point was that that's where I realized that we do have a problem as a community, whether that problem is because of discrimination or it's because we are failing in a lot of places.
Well, we've got two ends of the extreme though in our community, don't we? I mean, we have the high achievers, we have the businessmen, we have the entrepreneurs, right? And we focus on that a lot. Yeah, and the doctors and all the rest of it.
But I think if we're looking at a larger statistic of people, I mean, you can take this by in terms of economics. The majority of Muslims live in deprived areas, still to this day. Like the majority aren't up and coming, and you know. And you can see this by just going to Alam Rock, Small Heath, or Spark Hill, or all of these inner city areas. And that's where I believe that, you know, there has been part of a failing on our part as a community together. And as time goes on, our divide will continue. And it won't even be about, you know, politics. The politics won't be about you as a Muslim get discriminated, therefore you vote one particular way. It'll be about, where do my economics sit? Right. If my economics sit on this way, then I'm going to vote that way, even if it doesn't suit my community. And I've heard this from a few people, particularly those who are regarded to be well-to-do. And it makes me wonder where as a community we're going to be going in the next 10 to 15 years.